let's get into our Giants top 10 player review of the season.
And yes, Sean, I was being serious about this. I saw Sean's comment. So, yeah, I'm also being serious on this.
Yeah. All right. So, Fonz, as the guest, the way we'll do this is I feel like, Hank, last year we did one at a time, right? Or should we all do 10 and then keep going?
I think we each did it individually, but I'm kind of cool with doing taking turns for 10.
All right. Yeah.
We could do like 10 count of 4 corners. That's what we do. Like 10, we go around the 9. I don't want to jump into the show, but if that's
that works perfectly fine. So, Fonz, we'll get started with you.
Oh boy.
Top 10 players on the Giants. Who was number 10 for you this season and why? And then we'll go to Hank and then me.
Well, this one's a little bit out there, and I think Hank, you might know too. I'm a big special teams guy. I like the outlier of players too, and it's not the one player. I think it's somebody different because I'm a big fan of this. We got to bring this back more. I'm gonna go with Gary Brightwell at number 10 here.
Okay.
Spot. I know, Tom. Listen, he's not the only special team that's making this list. I'm gonna put Gary Brightwell at here too. Listen, I like the unders. I like the under, like the story here. Listen, 6th-round pick. Couldn't really make a name himself on the offense. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to go in the kick returner spot. Didn't do that much in college. Had close to 600 kickoff yards, no touchdowns, but had a lot of big moments in the return game. Really good special teamer too. I think he definitely earned a spot on the roster going forward. Usually with 6th-round picks, they don't really make it past like the first or two seasons really. But definitely made a name for himself in the special teams. I know this one's a little bit out there. My number 10 is the wild card. It's the crazy one too. So I got to give credit where credit's due. Good special teamer. I like special teams players. I think kick return's a big part in the NFL games. So Gary Brightwell is my number 10 here. Good special teams player. Definitely made a name for himself going forward too.
I like that. So I don't think mine's necessarily as out there as yours, but mine's a guy who was pretty productive over the course of the season, and I'm going to go with Daniel Bellinger, our tight end. And the reason that I'm going to go with Daniel Bellinger is because, well, he definitely was an upgrade over the last tight end that we had, the Pro Bowler that you were referring to in your slideshow.
Pro Bowler, Evan Ingram.
But with that having been said, Daniel Bellinger was more sure-handed for sure this season. He definitely was better with blocking. However, the only reason that I don't have him very high on that list is because, well, definitely the injury to his eye socket really hurt, and he missed a significant amount of time. But during the games he played, he made some big catches. So I felt that it would be only fair to put him on this list.
I like it. Listen,
okay.
I love the tight end.
Yeah. I'm going to be honest with you both. I'm a huge advocate for tight ends. Daniel Bellinger, unfortunately, did not make my list. But, Fonz, you're really going to like my pick for number 10. It is former – you know who it is, right?
Because I pressed yours by accident. I saw your number 10. Go ahead.
Okay. It's actually one of my favorite players on the team, and I hope they bring him back. It is Jihad Ward.
Yeah.
And the reason why, Hank, Jihad Ward is my number 10 player, if you remember early on in the season, Kayvon Thibodeaux missed his first couple of games of his NFL career. Jihad Ward wound up setting a career high in tackles this year. He tied a career high in sacks, career high in forced fumbles with 2. He had 4 passes defended. Jihad Ward at 28 years old, this is arguably the best year of his career. So Jihad Ward clocks in at number 10 for me. And now we'll move on to number 9, Fonz.
I love that, by the way. Former Raven. I was upset. I was like, he could be good somewhere else. It was that when he was on the Ravens, a lot of pass rushers, defensive linemen on that roster. He was like, it was on the bubble, but I knew he was going to do well wherever he went. He's done really well with the Giants. Wink Martindale, I miss you so much. My number 9. Tom, you know about this. I've talked about him. Again, another underdog story. I got to give credit to Isaiah Hodgins here, doing really well. Another later round pick. He was a 6th-round pick for the Buffalo Bills. The first 2 seasons. First season, he missed the whole year with a shoulder injury. I don't know. It was an injury. I don't know exactly what it was. The season after, he was on like the practice squad the entire season. And this past season got cut by the Bills and was picked up by the Giants at the midway point too. And only close to 400 receiving yards, nothing really to write home about, but he did make a lot of big plays. I noticed too, big bodied receiver. And I really think that he impressed a lot of people. And I think he definitely, if anything, earned a shot to compete for a roster spot going forward. Now, I'm not saying he's like your number one, number two. He could be your number three guy, maybe even number two in a couple of games here too. Again, great catch radius. Again, a big body target for Daniel Jones, a nice extra guy to throw to. I think he definitely earned a roster spot for next year. So I'm really high on Hodgins. It's my new Darius Slayton. So keep an eye on Hodgins for next season. I got to give him a lot of credit for this past season. Definitely proven himself. Again, Dable knew him because he was the offensive coordinator down in Buffalo where they drafted Hodgins.
Love it. I love that pick.
Mm-hmm. Hodgins is going to be really good for you guys. Really. Yeah. He's really good.
I think so too, but my number 9 guy is Azeez Ojulari. He's another guy who missed a good amount of games, but ultimately he was another important member of the defense. And again, I think the amount of games missed are pretty much why I have him a little bit lower than I would imagine he might be on either of your lists. But that being said, he still has to be up there. So there you go.
Like it. Just messaging you guys in the private chat here. Apologize if my connection is kind of shitty tonight, but I'll get to my number 9 now.
Might be my connection as well too. So I apologize.
There's been something going on lately with New York internet. We'll have to figure that out, but at a different time. But folks, thank you for sticking with us thus far. If you're still here, my number 9 is also, like Fonz, Isaiah Hodgins. And Isaiah Hodgins, now, to your point before, Fonz, he only played 8 games with the Giants this year. He was claimed off waivers by the Buffalo Bills. He only played in 1 game with the Bills, and Hodgins was never bad. He was stuck behind Stephon Diggs, Gabriel Davis, John Brown, Cole Beasley, Isaiah McKenzie, Khalil Shakir. I mean, there was no room for him on the Buffalo Bills receiving corps. But now he's here on a Giant, and now, the exposure, he might be better than some of those guys. His stats this season, 37 catches, 392 yards, and 4 touchdown receptions in just 8 games with the Giants. And in just 8 games with the Giants, he was tied for the team lead with touchdown receptions. More importantly, the playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings, he had 8 catches, 105 yards, and 1 score. And he filled a gaping hole for the Giants after they lost Sterling Shepard to a season-ending ACL and after they lost Wan'Dale Robinson to a season-ending ACL. So that's why Isaiah Hodgins is my number 9.
He might be a lot higher heading into next season, guys. I'm telling you this right now. I really do believe that. And you're right, Tom. I think there's a case he's better than I think half those Bills wide receivers. So he could be a number 2, number 3 there easily now after a showing. So what am I on now? We're now on my number 8. Hank, you mentioned him before. I'm going to put him on here too. Azeez Ojulari, I'm going to put him on here as well too. Now, again, like you said, he missed a lot of games. He played only 7 games this past season, but in 7 games, 5.5 sacks, close to a sack a game. That's pretty damn impressive. And he was very innocent. He was very good last year. And with a full season, he had 8 sacks and close to 50 tackles in 17 games last season. Missed a lot of time, but I think he's definitely going to be a huge part going forward. And when he was on the field for those 7 games, he made a huge impact. So I got to give credit to Ojulari. And like you said, if he was healthy, he played at least like 12, 13 games, he'd be a lot higher. But again, 5.5 sacks, 14 tackles in 7 games. That's still pretty impressive with that rotation of linebackers and linemen that you have in New York. So you got to give credit to Ojulari there. Definitely will be a lot higher this time next year if he's fully healthy.
Awesome. I like that pick. And now I think you're both going to like this one. I am going to go with Isaiah Hodgins. And Fonz, if I'm being honest, I think I'm just as high on Isaiah Hodgins as you are.
You should be.
There is no question about it. He was that hidden gem of an offseason pickup that Joe Shane made. And look, I think he was a big part in the Giants winning some of our late season games. And as a result, because of his impact as a big acquisition, that's why I put him just a little bit higher than both of you guys.
I respect it. I
That's
like
fair.
it a lot. This is very fair.
If I put it I would have put it higher if he played a little bit more games. But you know,
Yeah.
honestly, 8, I can make an argument for switching Ojulari and Hodgins also. You know what I mean?
Yeah, those are guys that are really interchangeable in my honest opinion.
They are interchangeable, and that's why my number 8, like Fonz, is Azeez Ojulari. And fun fact, I had Azeez at 8 last year as well, even when he had 8 sacks in his rookie year. This year, his sophomore campaign, he played in just 7 games and had 14 tackles. But, as Fonz said, 5.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles. He had an impact in those games that he played in that helped the Giants win. So I'm going with Azeez as my number 8 for the second year in a row. And hopefully he plays in more games next year because we need him. He needs to stay healthy. But thank you, Jihad Ward, for filling in the void for him when he was hurt.
Couldn't agree more with that. It's very good. My number 7. Now is the real special teamer that you guys probably figured I put on here too, because kickers are just as important as any other position. In a league where every team struggles with kickers, you guys know, at least my Ravens, I'm happy with a consistent kicker, and you guys have found one too in Graham Gano. 90% field goal percentage, 94 in extra points. His longest one was 57. He had 119 total points this past season. That's very, very impressive too. When he got cut by the Panthers a few years ago, some people thought like he'd be done in his career because he was a long time Panthers kicker, but the Giants picked him up. People weren't sure, and he's been consistent for you guys for the past couple seasons. And a lot of good game-winning field goals, some close ones to help bring the game back and whatever too. A little extra motivation. So kickers, you got to give the love to the kickers here. Gano at number 7. I think that's probably the highest I would go, honestly, for any kicker too. But you got to give the credit for the kickers up here. So Gano's my number 7.
Wow. Okay. Respect it. Hank, what do you got?
I am going to go with the rookie of the year, Kayvon Thibodeaux.
KT.
Yeah, no.
Be careful. Some people might think you're picking the other KT out there.
Kadarius Toney.
No, I think a lot of people.
Potential Super Bowl champion.
No, I think a lot of people are going to try to block that guy out of their memory. But in any event, Kayvon Thibodeaux definitely got better over the course of the season. And again, the reason I don't have him as high is because he didn't necessarily start off as well, but that second half was definitely big enough to warrant him being on this list without a doubt. And if we're being honest, like he also got held a lot. So maybe he could have been higher if he wasn't held a lot, but that's besides the point. He gave us a breath of fresh air on defense. So there you go.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, guess what? Deja vu. Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 7.
Interesting.
Except I wrote his whole name out, put a little more effort into it, Hank. 14 games played, 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and 5 passes defended. And, of course, the touchdown he scored in the biggest game of the season against Washington. If the Giants lose that game, there's a chance they will make the playoffs, guys. And that was huge. Kayvon got the strip sack and recovered the ball into the end zone for a touchdown. So Kayvon Thibodeaux is my number 7 overall. I wish I could have put him a little bit higher, but I think Kayvon Thibodeaux is the best edge rusher the Giants have had in a long time, possibly since Jason Pierre-Paul. So speaking very highly of him there. So he may even surpass JPP if he really, locks in and, hammers down. I know JPP's currently a Raven, so.
We're number 4, by the way, which again still is very weird to me when linemen wear single-digit numbers. But that's
I'm not a big fan personally.
Now, another deja. What's it called when you have 3 of the same? Triple deja vu, deja trace, or whatever.
Something
it is.
like that, right?
I have Kayvon Thibodeaux at number 6. Now, I think it's because the second half of his season definitely bumped him up here. Now, if he had this production in the first half and had a crappy second half, he'd be a lot lower. But if he had this whole consistency throughout the entire year, he'd be a lot higher, obviously. So I think there's a perfect spot for him right now, too. Again, the first half struggle, people thought maybe bust or whatever, but you give the pass to rookie linemen or whatever. But like you said, the sacks he had later on in the season and that touchdown against Washington too, later on in the season definitely proved that he is a star in the making for the Giants. I definitely think they made the right call here with that selection too. But like I said, the inconsistency from the beginning, but trending in the right direction. That's why he's at number 6. Again, if it was trending in the other direction, he'd probably be number 10. But, this is a good spot for him. I think if he continues his play next season like he did this past season, trending upwards, he's going to be a lot higher. But Thibodeaux, stud. I really think he's going to have a good year next year.
Like it. Hank, who's your number 6?
Number 6, why don't we go with Graham Gies, our kicker. Probably one of our biggest sources of offense, arguably, this year, besides Jones and Barkley. And I would say this year, you've really gotten to see a lot of his money kicks actually mean something. So definitely has to be in the middle tier of this list.
Yeah, I like Graham Gano there at number 6. I think that's a good pick, Hank. I think that's a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my number 6, I'm going a little different. I think this is the first one in a while where any of us haven't duplicated each other. I'm going with Notre Dame safety, Julian Love. I'm going with Julian Love here because 16 games played. He led the team in tackles this year with 124. His first year with the true defined starting role, obviously because they let Jabril Peppers walk and they cut Logan Ryan. Love had 2 picks, 5 passes defended. I can't say enough good about the guy this year. I know he was getting some heat earlier on in the show because of what he said about Nick Sirianni on Good Morning Football, which is not the best look. But you know what? He's back Daniel Jones. He's back his teammates this year. He's a captain, and he was very important to this football team. When McKinney was hurt this year, they needed a guy like Julian Love, and now he's a guy that might be worthy of a second contract with the Giants. So Julian Love is my number 6, guys.
Tom, it seems like great minds think alike because Julian Love is my number 5. Listen, I'm a big fan of him, and I would have had McKinney on here if he was healthy the entire season. I think the combination next year, McKinney and Love, that's going to be a very good safety.
If he's back, yeah.
If they're both back and whatever too.
If Love is back, yeah.
I think Love definitely more than deserves a second contract with that team as a team captain, now team leader. Like you said, back Daniel Jones and the entire Giants organization from day one. Led the team in 124 tackles as a safety. That's pretty damn impressive. 2 picks this season and 1 sack too. Definitely should have got some Pro Bowl consideration in my opinion too. But a clear leader in the secondary for the Giants. Definitely think that's something they needed, like a captain or a leader in that secondary role here. They kind of really haven't really had that, if I'm not mistaken, in a while. But I think Love is someone who I think definitely will be back on the team next year. I think he should be at least. When him and McKinney are back together, that'd be really good too. But you got to give credit to Love there. 124 tackles as a safety. Stepped up big time when they needed him. I think definitely is a fan favorite there too. So I think Love is more than deserving of the number 5 spot on my list.
And you know what? Believe it or not, Fonz.
Listen. I don't know. Listen. I think listen. I didn't see anybody's list except Tom's number 10 and Jihad Ward.
I didn't see anyone's list.
I picked Tom. I saw Jihad Ward. Just for the record, I only saw Jihad Ward. I'm like, yes. I'm like, I don't want to spoil surprises for all of them too. But yeah, go ahead, Hank.
Julian Love was definitely the one member of the secondary that was able to get us through, and he was pretty versatile over the course of the season, and definitely made some big plays. So have to put him in the middle tier for sure.
Yeah, and I think, too, you guys spoke about those 124 tackles. Granted, a lot of them are because our linebackers couldn't make them. So Julian Love had to play that linebacker role a little bit on the defense. Yeah, exactly.
Can't complain.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Go Irish. Now, my number 5, I want to step above you guys. Fonz, you took him at 7. Hank, you took him at 6. I'm taking him as high as 5 because that's where I took him last year. So I'm going to stay consistent with it. I know he's a kicker, but
I get it.
Fonz, consistently great, and he is one of the most underappreciated players on the team. Graham Gano. With Graham, when I think of Graham Gano, I think of this, and you can relate with Justin Tucker, but Graham Gano, not just 29-32 in field goals, 8 of 9 from 50 or more yards. He was near automatic from 50 plus.
You don't see that at all. That's coming from a guy who has Justin Tucker. You know what I mean? Like, it's great. I love seeing that too. Could not agree more. Kickers are people too.
They are.
Gotta credit that.
Kickers are players.
Right.
Kickers are players.
Yes. All right. Now, I don't know. This is the first time he's been met. Well, it's the second time he's been mentioned by me here. I don't know where you guys have him. My number 4. My top 4 was hard. This was where it got difficult because I did not, because like 10 through 5, I kind of knew where everybody was going even beforehand. Even my number 10 was the wild card spot. This is where it got difficult. And I can hear the argument for anyone else too. I put Jones at 4. I put Jones at 4 for now. Because the next 3, it's like hard to switch up and forward. You can make the argument. Jones. This morning, I had Jones at 1 in my head as a day 1. I'm like, I could put him at 3 because of another guy. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? I got to stick with him at 4. No knock on him. Jones is definitely, out of all like really coming to the quarterbacks heading into the season, Jones definitely had a lot of pressure heading in, like even with guys like Jalen Hurts, some other guys, even just for example, to be named, that had a lot of pressure heading into the season. Jones was definitely on that list. And he showed a lot of people wrong. Even with less of what he had at the wide receiver spot or whatever, too, was consistent throughout the entire season. Really good player and really showed that he can be the future for the Giants here. And I definitely think he earns a contract. I don't know how much they'll pay him. Who knows what's going to happen there? But this past season was very good. Proved a lot of people wrong, including myself, because I wasn't as high on Daniel Jones. Was very consistent for you guys this whole season. Only reason I put him at 4 is because the next 3 that I'm going to mention later on, it's hard to put Jones above those next 3 guys. I think you guys know who I'd put there. But Jones for me is at number 4. But you can have the argument for him at 3, 2, or 1.
Okay. Hank, who do you got? Daniel Jones, 4 for Fonz.
So I am going to go for number 4 with Saquon Barkley, our running back. And yeah, I would agree. My spoiler alert, my top 4 was also a pretty difficult list in that I knew who was going to be up there, but ultimately I didn't quite know where I was going to put my top 4, so to speak. You know what I mean? But
it's hard.
At the end of the day, Saquon Barkley definitely has to be in the top tier of this list because without a doubt, he was one of the horses on offense. Now, granted, obviously, he had those few weeks where he struggled, so to speak. But with that having been said, when the games got bigger, he came up clutch. And as a result, he is definitely pretty high on this list. In fact, he was fantastic in that win against the Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, if not for Daniel Jones, you could make the case that he was definitely a good part in that win, especially because, you know, even though he didn't get a lot of carries, the ones he did get were for huge runs, especially that touchdown that really set the tone for that game.
That's right. He helped us out in that playoff win against Gabe Flayton's Minnesota Vikings.
Yes.
Saquon Barkley at number 4 for you, Hank. Well, I also had a tough time with my top 4. I'll just say this right now, and I think all 3 of us agree. All 3 of us have the same top 4. I'm almost positive, unless something crazy happens.
I don't know if you guys put Galladay on there, but he's on there. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Just kidding. Everybody.
These next two were interchangeable for me, but I also put Barkley at 4, and here's why. He battled a shoulder injury during the second half of the season, and it was clearly noticeable on the field, as where the top 3 were healthy all season long. There was no injury issue with any of them that sort of affected their production. Barkley played 16 games. Now, granted, he played through this injury. He played 16 games. He would have played the full season if they didn't rest the starters in Philadelphia. So anyone who played 16 games, they pretty much played every game. They played every game. 1,300 rushing yards, 1,312. That was a career high for him with 10 rushing touchdowns. He had 57 receptions for just 338 yards. You know, again, a lot of these passes to him were short passes. he made a lot of great plays in the game. The Tennessee game, the 2-point conversion where they did the Chiefs special with Andy Reid there. The little pitch, the play they like to do to Kelsey in the red zone. They did it with Saquon. And yeah, several runs this season really impressed me. Especially the Baltimore game, Fonz. He was really good in the Baltimore game too.
Oh, I'm aware, Tom. I'm aware. Thank you for that one. I thought we were
who's
done.
your number 3?
My number 3, this again, now the top 3 gets even more difficult. Who do you put there at 3, 2, and 1? I got to give credit here to Sexy Dexy, Dexter Lawrence.
Oh, wow.
And at number 3. A high draft pick for you guys, I believe in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was in like top 20. I think he was a high draft pick for you guys too. Took a little bit of time to kind of
16, yep.
Make a
17.
name for himself
17.
on the field here too. This past season though, I think his first year as a captain, all pro, Pro Bowl selection, 7.5 sacks, 68 total tackles for a defensive tackle. And you don't really see that many high sacks that for a defensive tackle, nose guy right in the middle. But definitely, made a huge name for himself this season. Again, with the whole defensive line, with a lot of stud players on there, a lot of great players. Dexter Lawrence has definitely improved a lot this season. I think he's going to have a bright future in New York. A good run stuffer, good at getting after the quarterback. Clearly, when you have close to 8 sacks as defensive tackle, really good player throughout the season. So Dexter Lawrence is my number 3. And again, you could make an argument for putting him at 2 and 1. You can convince me. You really can.
Love it, Hank. Who's your number 3?
Well, you might think I'd have mine a little bit higher, considering I called him the MVP. And I still pretty much stand by a lot of the points that I made with this. But for number 3, I am going to go with Daniel Jones. You knew between him and Barkley, you knew one of the two was going to be in the top 3, but it's a little surprising that it was only Daniel Jones that made the top 3. However, the reason I put him in the top 3 is because ultimately this was a year where as I've said, things definitely fell into place for Daniel Jones for sure. I think the turnovers dropped significantly. I think definitely he owes a good amount of that to Brian Daboll. I mean, look at the comparison between him and, say, Josh Allen with turnovers, and I think you could argue there is such a thing as the Brian Daboll effect. But with that having been said, Daniel Jones also had a lot of moments where he showed his high football IQ, and if you really, really watched and paid attention to the Giants, you would see that he was a very important part of, I would say, at least 2/3 of our wins this year, especially the Viking game and especially the Colts game. And one thing I didn't touch upon when talking about, my season high for the Giants season, it wasn't so much just because I went to this game, but like hearing that Daniel Jones chant at the very end of that Colts game, that gave me the chills. It was such an incredible moment. And look, I don't care if a good chunk of those fans were some of the same fans that were like, talking shit about him like for much of his career with the Giants. Like, the fact of the matter is he's gotten respect, and I can't wait to see how he builds off of the season next year.
Yeah. I agree. I also had Jones as my MVP of the team, but sometimes most valuable player doesn't always mean the best player, right? It's the player that's most important to your team. And more often than not, when he plays really well, it's the quarterback. And not that I'm going to disagree with what you guys said about Jones, but Jones has been steadily improving his turnover numbers since his rookie year. Even last year before he got hurt, his turnover numbers were down significantly. This year, it was just out the window. He was the least turnover-prone quarterback in the NFL. He went 7 weeks without a turnover this season. 67% completion percentage. I mentioned all the stats with him before, but the 5 comeback wins this season were astronomical. And I think also his ability to be durable and run with the football is something that, sets him apart from other quarterbacks in this league where Fonz, with the Ravens, the running back quarterback situation. Now with the Giants, you can't just worry about stopping Barkley. You have to worry about stopping Jones on quarterback keeper plays or RPOs of that nature. So, Daniel Jones definitely proved his worth on this football team. No Sterling Shepard for almost all the season. Missed Wandale for a big chunk of the season. Kenny Golladay was a shadow. And then he's throwing to Darius Slayton, Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, and Daniel Bellinger. So that's why Daniel Jones is my number 3. So, and I think he's coming back. I think he should get around 30 to 35 million a year. And I think that's a good bargain considering the way the quarterback market is now. Quarterbacks are making like 40, some even 50 million a year. Look at Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes should not be the standard of being a franchise quarterback. And I think it's been proven by a lot of other quarterbacks. And I think Daniel Jones has proven that he is a franchise quarterback for the New York Football Giants.
Makes a lot of sense. Because we know the standard is Tom Brady, not Patrick Mahomes too. Because Tom, listen, don't do it.
Yes, correct.
Don't do it. I care about you. He's coming back. He's going to the 49ers. I'm not buying this. I'm going out there. I'm not buying this retirement. I'm not doing it. I care about you, Tom. I really do. My number 2. This was the 1 and 2 is pretty much. I knew they were going to be at the 2 and the 1 spot, at least in my opinion, respectively too. Because I was very high on this guy heading into the draft a few years ago, and that's Andrew Thomas. I'm putting in at number 2. Officially, not a Pro Bowler, but an All-Pro Andrew Thomas. A little backstory about Thomas too with Georgia. He played everywhere on the offensive line from day one as a true freshman, from right tackle all the way to left tackle his senior year too. Now heading into the draft, it was like him, Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs. I think there was another one. Is like who's the best offensive lineman heading into that draft? And a lot of people said Wirfs because of the potential, Wills because of the potential. They're not there yet, but they have the potential to be great. And I said Thomas because I thought he was great from day one. He knew all the positions. I think he could start from day one. The other two might need some time to develop. And people said that Thomas already has hit his ceiling because you knew what you're going to get with him. And I'm like, honestly, that's fine because you know you're going to get a great left tackle from day one. Now his first season, I was like, oh, my take might be wrong on that too. But this past season has done really well at the left tackle spot for your Giants. Has done really well. Definitely solidified himself as one of the better tackles this season. Definitely did not become the turnstile like of the ghost of Eric Flowers. If you guys remember that name pretty well. But was very good protecting Daniel Jones. Sorry, Tom, and I didn't mean to mention that name. Miami Hurricanes fan here. I hate that guy too also. But Andrew Thomas was very good for you guys this past season. Definitely proved to be worth that draft pick, that high draft pick where people were thinking that might have been a reach because you knew what you were getting with Thomas, unlike the potential Wills and Wirfs. Listen, should have made the Pro Bowl this year, but he's an all-pro. Thomas is going to be your left tackles protecting Jones's blind side, I think, for the next couple of years. He was really good, so give credit to Thomas here. Officially, all-pro, next year Pro Bowler, Andrew Thomas.
Love it. I love that pick.
Mm-hmm.
Hank, who do you got?
I am going to go with our best player on defense this year, Sexy Dexy. 7.5 sacks. You want to talk about guys who really have improved? That's one. And I think he really complemented the talent such as Azeez Ojulari and Kayvon Thibodeaux. And once again, you have to bring this guy back next year without question.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the tight end or of all the defensive tackles that we let go, Dexy is better than all those guys.
He did let a lot of tackle. I'm thinking the first one I'm thinking of is Damian Harrison. That's one I think.
Snacks, Dalvin Tomlinson.
Yeah. Linval
Joseph.
Jonathan Hankins.
He did let a lot of tackles go.
Barry Cofield. Fred Robbins. William Joseph Cornelius. What's that, Fonz?
Barry Cofield. What a name. That makes me smile, Tom.
Cornelius Griffin played in the 2000 Super Bowl.
I think the Cofield one makes me smile, Tom. That's a future top 10.
Also, Good pick, Hank. Quick shout out to Tudo by Zun. Massive salutes to Tommy and Hank, cold and diehard fans. Greetings from Princeton. Also, Fonz joining us here tonight. Fonz, you're also a Paisan, so relate with Tudo. Actually, you're a full-blooded Paisan, correct?
Well, fully blooded. Yeah, close to
Look
it.
at that.
I got to check the DNA reference of what I am exactly, but I'm pretty much fully.
The ancestry. Yeah, but Tudo is a rugby player, by the way.
Well, look at that. Hello, fellow rugger. It is nice to meet you.
Yeah. So he's a big Giants fan. Believe they were in Munich just recently playing rugby. So Tudo is badass. One of our most loyal and favorite commenters on YouTube. My number 2, I got to get back to my banners because I was pinning the comments on the show. I'm also going Andrew Thomas. For me, I'm going to go a little bit deeper into his stats because it's hard to find stats on an offensive line.
It is. I know you're the guy for that, so I figured you go for it.
Only 2 penalties the entire season.
That's good.
3 sacks allowed, 0 in the first 8 games. 3 sacks allowed on 1,049 pass blocking snaps.
That's literally you don't have to explain yourself. Like that's
under 25 pressures allowed on those 1,049 pass blocking snaps.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly a top 3 tackle in the NFL. I'd say Trent Williams might still be number 1, but I think Andrew Thomas might be number 2, if not number 3 at worst. I'm trying to think who could be number 2 at this point. I can't come up with a clear-cut name off the top of my head.
Right? I'm saying Lane Johnson
Left
is a
tackle.
right tackle.
I'm thinking left tackle. Maybe, I hate to say this, maybe Orlando. I don't know.
Oh, not Orlando Brown. No, I'd rather have Andrew Thomas than Orlando Brown.
Yeah,
I would.
True.
I can't think of anybody. You might be right. I think he might be number 2.
He might be number 2. Yeah. But let's get to number 1.
All right, my number 1 is future Super Bowl champion Kadarius Toney. I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just kidding.
My God.
Oh.
Hey, he might not play. He did get hurt in that game.
Hank's face just made it for me. And that's really it also listen, I got to give credit to Saquon Barkley, especially for there's a lot of, like with Daniel Jones, a lot of pressure with him heading into the season. His first 2 years in the league, unbelievable. Like, really was like, this guy's going to be like the top back, one of the top backs in the league. The third season, torn ACL in the second game against the Bears. Season after, struggled a lot. I think he played majority of the season, but struggled really with the bad offensive line. Coming into this season, there's a lot of pressure. I think this is why you don't pay running backs. This is why you don't draft the running back second overall, or at least in the top 5, first round overall. But like Tom mentioned before, career high in rushing yards too. He had some moments here of like the bad games here and there, but he was consistent, really playing throughout majority of the season, was the focal point of the offense for a majority of the games too, and even days where like they didn't have like good consistent wide receiver play. And I think Barkley, listen, I know people, I'm still on the bandwagon of, or the wagon of paying running backs. Not a lot of money, but like if they've done well, 3 of the 5 seasons you've had 1,000 yards and you were relatively healthy, especially in your contract year, like you were at your best season, I think he definitely earns a second contract. For how much, I have no idea, but I still think he definitely earned a spot here. He wants to be a Giant. Will still be the focal point in that offense. Him and Daniel Jones is a good backfield to work with too. If you get another guy behind him too, maybe Gary Brightwell is the second option behind him just in case to take the load off here, that'd be great. But I got to give Barkley my number 1 spot here because heading into the season, we thought he'd kind of be done or probably be moving on to another team. But, again, Pro Bowl this season, excellent stuff, career high in rushing yards too. So I got to give Barkley the number 1 spot for me, in my opinion.
Hard to argue with that. Really hard to argue with that. I mean, I could have easily put him in at 1 as well. And I said this earlier in the show too, Fonz. There's 2 ways to maximize the lifespan of a running back in the NFL. 1, you pay him after 4 years or sooner. And then 2, if you draft the running back in the first round, you give them the 5th-year option, and then you give them the franchise tag in year number 6 to minimize overpaying a boatload. And the franchise tag for running back this year is just over $10 million. So you have 6 years of a cost-controlled superstar running back, which is majority of a running back's prime in the NFL, and that's what smart GMs do. You know,
now this is his 5th year. Do you think they'll give him the franchise, or do you think they would do it with? Because they declined Jones's option, right? If I'm not mistaken, they declined Jones's option.
They declined Jones, but they gave it to Dexter.
Oh, I'm thinking it's like franchise tag. You can only accept one per player, but no, it doesn't. That's the franchise. You can only do one. Yeah, never mind. But so it's in his 5th year. Yeah, you can give him the franchise. I think. I mean, who else on the team would you give the franchise tag to? I'm asking you, like, what out of like, do you do it to Dexter? Like, as if it's his.
Well, Dexter's playing on the 5th-year option now this year, so they won't do it to him yet.
So I don't know any other. You give
Love.
Tag? Yeah,
Love.
I'm just saying.
You could give Love the franchise tag.
Yeah, that's hard because you only give one per team, if I'm not mistaken. It's one, or was it? Yeah, so that's the question there. But I agree with you on that. The Barkley thing, at least with him, you give it for the 6th year, and then if he has another great year, then you see what you go from there. You know,
right? Hank.
All right. So for my number 1, well, here's the thing. I don't necessarily hate the idea of Saquon being number 1. I think that's definitely a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
However, I am also of the belief that a good running back does not succeed without a solid member of the offensive line. And
very true.
In that case, my number 1 is Andrew Thomas, who, Tom pretty much gave all the stats about how he only allowed 3 sacks and didn't allow very many pressures. He allowed both Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones to thrive. Both of them had career years, and he is slowly emerging as one of the best left tackles in the game. And as Tom has heard me say many times on the show this season, I have often said that Andrew Thomas is the most important member of our offense, and I stand by that. So with that being said, he is number 1 on my list of top 10 Giants players of the 2022 season, and he is going to help us out for years to come.
Did you have him last year too?
Last year, I think I definitely had him in the top last year too, but that just goes to show you how well he's been playing.
Yeah, well, we'll have to go back and check that. But yeah, that's an awesome pick. Can't argue with that. A couple comments here. Cold G, what's up, Steve? And my man Tudo shouting back at Cold. My number 1, Dexter Lawrence. I'm going the top spot with him. And this is a position that's easily replaced, yes. But, I mean, Dexter Lawrence, you guys are going to think I'm crazy for saying this. He might be the next Aaron Donald. If you saw what he did, if you saw what he did to Quentin Nelson in that one game against the Colts, Quentin Nelson, in my opinion, I'm biased, but Quentin Nelson's the best guard in football right now. Dexter Lawrence took him and threw him down to sack the QB. Played in all 16 games, 68 tackles, 7.5 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 28 quarterback hits from the nose tackle position, 2 forced fumbles, 3 passes defended for 340-pound guy. Lawrence has never missed a game in his 4-year career due to injury. He has never missed a game. Also, he had a 2-sack game, Hank, which you and I were both in attendance to, against the Chicago Bears. He had 2 sacks in that game on Justin Fields, who was a mobile quarterback, so a 340-pound guy chasing down one of the quickest quarterbacks in the NFL. He's my number 1 for that reason. Those reasons.
I like it.
Again, it's what we said. 1, we can't, like, you've both made arguments for like number 1s, like Hank with Thomas at 1 and Tom, you with Dexter at 1. Like, you're convincing me. Like, it makes it, like, I totally understand your guys' argument for the top 3, top 4.
And
I really do.
I get Barkley too.
If you asked 100 people, like, rank these top 4, you're going to get, like, everybody's going to be, might get 25 if, like, everybody has a different one. Barkley 1, Thomas 1, Lawrence 1, Jones 1. You're going to get even out with all the answers, I think. I really do.
That's an awesome point, too. If we did do a survey, we'd probably get those 4. Probably nobody else besides those 4.
Yeah. You mentioned the tackle, by the way. I was looking at the Pro Bowl roster. So I'll if you want me to name the tackles, because Trent Williams was number 1. I'm looking like Laramie Tunsil, Teron Armstead, Deion Dawkins. And then that's the AFC Pro Bowl. Then Lane Johnson, Tristan Wirfs, Penei Sewell, too. Honestly, I would put Thomas above him even for both tackles. I'd put Thomas at number 2 behind Williams. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, really, I know, but still, I'm looking because I know there's a lot more options.
It's a popularity. Too. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm saying, no, All Pro is more important. But I was saying, like, looking at that, like, I'm trying to think, like, what other, because I needed a lot of list of tackles. I'm like, who else would be on there? I'm looking, I'm like, Thomas is number 2. He's got to be number 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that. And I think he's got a good chance to be number 1 next year if he keeps this up. But yeah, that's going to wrap up our show. Fonz, we really appreciate you joining us. Before we let you hop off here, where can people find Four Corners and your individual podcast, the Slickback Kickback Report?
Well, first I want to say, Tom and Hank, thank you guys so much for letting me join on here too. It was a lot of fun. Listen, I didn't like the presentation. I'll do a part 2 maybe one day. I'll see what happens soon. I love doing these lists too. And Tom, Hank, I'm going to come back on next time. We're going to make a list of top 10 Giants that make us smile. And Barry Cofield might make an appearance on that list because, Tom, you saw my face. I was grinning ear to ear when I heard that name. So we gotta do top 10 Giants that make us smile. But you check out Four Corners every Monday right here on Review and Preview. Me, Mike, and then with Albert Doan, we talk all things professional wrestling, WWE, AEW, New Japan. A lot of stuff's been going on too. A lot of great stuff with us. So Four Corners, wherever you get like your podcast. If you're listening to it now, that's where we are. It's in the same feed. And my own personal podcast, the Slickback Kickback Report. New episodes every Wednesday. Again, wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube, Fonz De Falco for the video versions. Greatly appreciate it. Just had an email for the podcast, slickbackkickback@gmail.com. So if people want to reach out, have questions, want to ask me anything, they want they want to be like, hey, if you guys like want ideas for content, what do you want me to talk about? Again, I want to interact with the fans. So slickbackkickback@gmail.com. I like interacting with people. Again, Fonz De Falco on all my social medias. I'm a very simple guy with that. So not a lot of different names. So Slickback Kickback Report, Four Corners, Fonz De Falco. That's my plugs.
Awesome. And thank you for being our 3rd 2-time guest this season for Big Blue Avenue. Also, happy birthday. I know you celebrated a birthday this week. So
yeah, the big old thank you guys. The big 2-8. The big 2-8. 2 more years to 30. It feels weird, but I think a lot of good things coming. Not just for the brand itself, but everything with you guys too, and Review and Preview. A lot of big things coming. 2023 is going to be a good year for all of us. I truly feel it. But thank you guys for the birthday wish. I really appreciate it.
I was just about to say, you are officially the average age of an NFL player.
Oh, look at that! Looks like my dreams of being a special teamer in the NFL are not. It's not going to come into fruition.
This is your Jabril Wilson year.
That might make me smile. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh man, that makes me smile.
You know what's crazy this year?
That's a good name.
My 28th birthday is far off, but I turned 28 on the 28th this year.
That's your golden birthday. It's the golden year.
I guess so, right?
That's what it is. Like 31st, like my 31st birthday is the golden year because January 31st. That's what it is. So look at that, Tom. We got a big celebration for your golden year. That's what we got to do.
Tudo, I'm 20. I'm 28 also.
We are the average age of an NFL player. It looks like our NFL dreams are it's all right. Maybe I can try it one day,
I don't mind to train Dexter Lawrence on how to break men to make a living the rugby style.
Dexter Lawrence on a rugby field is scary when you really think about it.
But Fonz, appreciate you. Check the private chat before you go.
I did.
But thank you so much. And Hank and I are going to do our thing and sign off. So thank you very much, Fonz.
No problem, guys. Have a good one.
All right. Thank you. That was Fonz De Falco from Four Corners and a Slickback Kickback Report, performing his punishment tonight. But Hank, it's been a great season, and I know Sam's not here, but we just want to say one final message to our fans on Big Blue Avenue. thank you. Because without you guys, this show would not be possible. The live streams that we've done for the past 22 weeks have been for you guys. We're now close to 450 YouTube subscribers, which is awesome. We're going to be grinding out content throughout the off season. Hank, our Giants historian, knowing all the stuff that happened back in the 30s and 40s up until now. Sam, the creative mind, the one who designs all our graphics and logos and brings the tea every single week. The fans, everyone, I'm not going to single people out, but you guys know who you are. Everyone that supported us throughout the course of the season. We'll still be doing content during the off season. It'll just be exclusively on YouTube. And if you guys want, reach out to us. We may do an occasional live stream during the off season just to keep us fresh a little bit. But Hank, any final parting words here? I can't believe that the Big Blue Avenue live streams are already done for the season. It feels like it just started, but I cannot believe how far we've come this year.
I mean, look, 3 years. Like I said, I still remember when Big Blue Avenue was just like a thought. And that was back when you and I were like stuck during quarantine and we were like, I don't remember what it was. We were either naming random Giants legends or we were asking each other Giants trivia, but definitely something to pass the time. And who knew it would turn into 3 seasons and more of Big Blue Avenue. And I definitely am with Tom in thanking the fans. Without you guys, this show would not be possible. But more importantly, Tom, thank you so much for bringing me on board. It has been such a fun ride. And I don't know if she's watching, but thanks to Sam Cardona as well for being another amazing co-host. And this has just been a lot of fun. And it is still an honor to talk Giants with both you guys on a weekly basis. I cannot wait to see the progress that our beloved New York Football Giants make next year. And look, don't know how long it'll be before we are truly Super Bowl contenders, but for the first time in a long time, I can say with confidence that the New York Giants are headed in the right direction. And hey, SB loves you, Eagle. And I also have to agree with Brian Attard's last sentence, LGR.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for that comment. Really appreciate it. Screw the Eagles. Let's go Chiefs. Cheers to 2023, Hank, and cheers to the next step. And ladies and gentlemen, one final time, if you want to check us out for all of our exclusive off-season content, make sure to check us out on Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter at Big Blue Avenue, where we will be posting videos of draft prospects. We'll have some off-season content, the contract extensions when they happen, when free agency moves happen. We'll have it all there for you. One final time, Hank, have a good night, everybody. And without further ado, let's go Big Blue.